Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man JRich.
Count that money, man.
Now wipe the crust out of your eyes, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. GMGP. We have made it. We've made it. We made it. We made it. NFL Draft Week 2024. We in the damn building, baby. What's cracking with y'all? Appreciate y'all waking y'all asses up this morning with me, Ray G. Y'all know where to find me on X at Ray GQ. If it's your first time tapping in, y'all know what we do on the show. We have a damn good time. And I see my people in the building. What's happening with you? David in the building. Good morning to you, my friend. First person in the chat. Robert, Rico Stone, L Wood with the fire emojis. What's happening with you, baby? I saw my girl Gretchen in the building. Marlon, Todd Declare trade show going down. Gator J, Garrison, JRich, baby. We're here. Draft week. Finally, I gave the people a week off. Spent the time in Hawaii with the family. It was good. In the fantasy space, they could not capitalize on the time that I gave them. It is just bullshit getting spewed left and right. Marvin top 5. This player ain't gonna be good. That player, I just watched Jermaine Burton for the first time. It's the damn draft week and you just watched Burton. What are you doing? But y'all are tapped into the right place. I'm excited. We got a lot of good stuff coming this week. A lot of stuff popping off. And I want to start with last night. If you did not tap into the live show with Scott and I, Destination Chill, we went through all 32 teams, talked about what we thought might happen, what should happen, how the fantasy space would react if certain things were to play out. So make sure you go back and check it out. It was like over an hour, but I timestamped that bad boy. It's timestamped for you. Go back, check out the 32 teams, 257 picks, predictions, and best fits that Scott Connor and I laid down last night. And this week, we got a lot of content coming. So we woke up this morning. Thank God for that. Make sure y'all wake y'all asses up with us on Thursday for a special edition of Wake Up as the NFL draft kicks off on Thursday. That night, we will be having a live draft party. Y'all know what it is. Friday, we're doing Wake Up again, recapping night 1, live draft party that evening, 6:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Saturday, we're doing it all over day 3 of the NFL draft. And Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, myself along with Scott on Destination Chill will be going through every single pick. Offensive fantasy relevant players, picks 1 through 257. We're going through everybody. Running back, tight end, wide receiver. Make sure y'all tapped in for Destination Chill Sunday night. JRich, it's good to be back, baby. I've missed you. How are you doing, my friend? Let's bring you on the screen and see how you doing, big dog.
I'm good, man. I'm good. It was a good week. You know, not because you weren't here. I did miss you, of course. I hope you had fun in Hawaii. But I mean, for everyone who is missing football, you should have been watching the soccer, man. There was some great football this past week and the week. Ray, I'm telling you, man. The El Clasico, we had the Champions League quarterfinals. Man, it was crazy. But it is NFL week. It is draft week. And I think dude, I'm telling you, man. You got to watch yourself some Jude Bellingham because this guy is playing like one of the best midfielders in the world. But either way, it is draft week, and we are here to do one thing, Ray. We are here to show the people why we don't just get on here and talk a whole bunch of bullshit every single day, every single week with the people. We are here to not just dominate, but take down the draft challenge. And if you're not signed up for the draft challenge, make sure you are in our Patreon, patreon.com/allgas, and sign up for the draft challenge to try and beat me and Ray. Because every year, Ray, we either win or we come damn close. And this year, I am more motivated than ever to get the W. And a lot has changed. And that's what this show is all about. What has been going on in the past week since you've been gone? Where are these teams looking for players? And especially the team fits and player projections, because it seems like it changes every single day. We got a new mock draft from Jordan Reid. We got thoughts from Adam Schefter this morning as well. Ray, where do you want to start? Because it seems like you almost have to start at the number 2 pick.
Well, I mean, let's set the table for the show and what we're gonna do today. And today, Jay, normally what we do the week of the draft, we go through some of our takes, our top tens, our top, our guys, my guys. We do that every single year. But since we are going to do an episode on Thursday, we'll save that for the Thursday episode. Today, let's just talk about what's happened over the past week, what we're seeing talked about and discussed today, and just sort of see if there's any smoke to the rumors and the noise that we're hearing. You got the Washington Commanders bringing in 4 quarterbacks to eat dinner and play Top Golf together. Caleb Williams seems to be solidified that he's going to the Chicago Bears, and now it's just kind of figuring out what everybody else does. The big moves that the Minnesota Vikings may potentially make. What are the Kansas City Chiefs going to do? I think I saw Adam Schefter say looking at a multi-game suspension for Rashee Rice, and again, that seems like something that was already probably on the table. 2 games is what, 2 to 3 games. Most people already thought that was going to be the case. But now people are like, oh, they're guaranteed locked in going to take a wide receiver in round 1. So, man, really, let's start with before we get into the mocks. We saw there was a tweet last night from our friends at the Draft Network. Jamie Eisner tweeted out there was some significant movement on who the betting odds and the favorites were to be the number 2 overall selection in the draft or the second quarterback off of the board. And we're starting to see more smoke and more noise about J.J. McCarthy potentially being the selection for the Washington Commanders at pick 2, Jay. Just what are your thoughts? And I'm going to pull that tweet up real quick, but what are your thoughts about that and what we're hearing about J.J. McCarthy potentially going number 2 overall to Washington?
I think it's more of an indictment on Drake Maye than anything else, honestly, because for so long, he was the number 2 guy. This was before Jaden Daniels was even in the picture. Of course, he vaulted himself into the picture with the Heisman in the season he had. But it definitely seems like more of an indictment on Drake Maye because teams would prefer to have JJ McCarthy over Drake Maye. And it does seem like that camp definitely exists. And while the odds shift is somewhat significant, I think it is more indicative of what we've seen. JJ's probably going to be a top 5 pick. He could potentially be even a top 4 pick. And there's a chance where he is the preferred quarterback for a team at 2 or 3. Because that world always existed. It wasn't just going to be he goes to 4 or 5. Of course he could go at 2 or 3. That's always a possibility. So when he was like 20 to 1, 25 to 1, this seems like a better indication as to how teams really feel about him. Is there 1 or 2 teams, as that 11 to 1 odds would suggest, that believe he's better than Drake Maye? I think so. And so I think it's just a correction in the odds a little bit. It definitely says a lot about JJ, but I think we should have expected this a little bit to some extent because there's been a lot of steam about JJ for a long time, and it seems like it's only going to continue up to draft day.
Yeah, man, this is I don't know. Like, I have no clue what to think about this. You're looking right now. I'm looking on DraftKings, Jay, and second quarterback selected still Jaden Daniels minus 155, Drake Maye plus 130. McCarthy 14 to 1, so plus 1,400 right now for J.J. McCarthy to be the second quarterback selected in the draft. It feels like this is smoke at this point in time. I'm all here for the J.J. McCarthy rise, but for him to leapfrog 2 other quarterbacks now and Drake Maye and Jaden Daniels, I don't know about that one, but you know what? Much like a lot of things in life, follow the money, and that will normally point you in the right direction. But right now, Jay, I'm still thinking that second selection is probably going to be reserved for either Jaden Daniels or Drake Maye.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I think the interesting thing about it is, did you see last week, right? They brought all the quarterbacks in and they had them all together. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, but I really like that approach. I like the approach of seeing all the guys in the room. Like, yeah, you can see them one-on-one, see how they perform, but like, how do they interact when there's other alpha dogs? Like, again, another competitive environment where you don't have the one-on-one. You literally compare them exactly as they are in this environment. I think that's a very interesting perspective, and I wish more teams did that. Imagine if you did it with wide receivers. You take all the wide receivers, put them on a field, put them in meeting rooms, and see which one you think is best. It's a lot easier to tell that than when you're doing all these individual workouts, individual interviews, all that kind of stuff. So I really like that, and I think it could be successful. Now, what they ultimately do, that's another question. But if they had that whole situation, and they thought JJ was the biggest presence, the best leader, poised, calm, like, if they thought that, then at least they're evaluating all these players on a level playing field, and that's who they thought was the best. Like, when you're doing it individually, it's more difficult to tell that. But in one room, all together, it's easier to make a decision, in my opinion. So I don't know if you thought that was kind of not good or you wouldn't suggest that, but I thought it was interesting for the quarterbacks to do that.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, for me, when it comes down to these landing spots and situations, it does matter. Like, it absolutely matters. That one selection between the Commanders and the Patriots can completely change the trajectory of a player. It's huge. And if we haven't learned that by now, then what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's evident. It doesn't mean that every good situation is going to yield positive fantasy points or this superstar outlook for the player, but a bad situation can absolutely nuke whatever upside or theoretical upside a player possesses based on coaching scheme, philosophy, personnel, all of that stuff, man. So, it's not even so much of who goes 2 or 3, it's how you personally feel about those situations and those landing spots. The New England Patriots
100%.
with Gerard Mayo, Van Pelt, Robert Kraft, all the things that they're doing, and how you feel about Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn, and the new ownership. Adam Peters is the GM for the Commanders, and what those people in those high places are going to do to surround these young quarterbacks with weapons. Because the reality is, man, like, you look at New England, Jay, and I'm sitting back and I'm just looking at the team and I'm doing all these damn underdog drafts and trying to stack up and correlate the New England Patriots. And I mean, whoever lands there, your best receivers are going to be Pop Douglas and Kendrick Bourne out the gate with Hunter Henry. You go to Washington, you got to throw to Terry McLaurin is dope, but you got the corpse of Zach Ertz and you got Jahan Dotson, right? So the infrastructure needs to be in place there for those individuals and those signal callers. So it's going to be interesting to see all that play out from a betting perspective. It's fun to throw a little bit of money on it. But let's pull up the board. I want to talk through my dog Jordan Reid's mock. He literally just dropped this joint, a couple hours ago, Jay? He threw it on the board a couple hours ago.
Final mock draft, yeah.
Final mock draft. So we'll take a look at his. We'll kind of peruse around through here. We're not going to go through every single pick, and we're not going to spend a lot of time at the top. But there's some interesting landing spots and some interesting nuggets inside of this article about some of the other players who are drafted a little bit later. So we'll pull up Reid's mock, take a look at that, and we'll also pull up our boy Chad Reuter's got an interesting mock draft as well, Jay. Old Reuter's got an interesting one. But here we go, Jordan Reid's final mock. So let's talk through it, man. Nothing too out of the ordinary here. You got Caleb, Jaden Daniels, Drake Maye. We're not going to spend any time sort of talking about this, Jay. But let's move down the board a little bit more because it gets interesting quite early in this mock. So let me fix the damn screen. Marvin Harrison, number 4 to Arizona. Joe Alt, number 5 to the Chargers. So the Chargers passing on wide receiver in favor of offensive tackle, which I think they're going to do in the draft. I believe that's what they're going to do. Got Neighbors at 6 to the Giants, and then you got Rome Odunze to the Tennessee Titans. We have not seen a lot of mocks with Tennessee opting for a pass catcher, given the fact that they just signed Calvin Ridley. They still have DeAndre Hopkins, I believe, under contract. Quickly, Rome Odunze to Tennessee. How's that make you feel?
I hate it, but I mean, you got to wait on him, right? Because he's a phenomenal talent. Could he be the wide receiver 1 by the end of the season, potentially? We know that Callahan's probably going to throw the ball a lot, but yeah, this flip of Chargers not trading down, which he has traded in this mock, so he could have had them trade down, and then forcing Tennessee into wide receiver because Alt wasn't available, and Alt has been the pick in every mock at Tennessee. If the Chargers go this route, which would make a lot of sense based on what Harbaugh said, I don't love it for Odunze, but he's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 next season or the season after that once Ridley kind of falls off a bit. No, but Hopkins would definitely be.
No, it'd be Calvin Ridley.
You don't think so?
It's Calvin Ridley.
You don't think he could beat him out? I think he could. Yeah, easily.
What do you mean beat him? It's
like to be the one. I think he could be the one in the offense.
That's not how it works. You don't just beat him out. They just gave him $50 million. You're not going to beat him out like that. I get what you're saying. Could Rome Odunze's youthful talent be greater than that of Calvin Ridley?
Yeah,
maybe,
next season, not this season. Because Hopkins has to leave too, right?
I think that's sipping a little bit of hopium even next season.
So question for you then, if that's how you feel though, where do you draft him? Because if that's how you feel, is he even a top 7 pick for you at that point?
I just don't understand people. Rome will beat out Ridley.
Yeah, but if you don't believe that, then he shouldn't be a top 7 pick.
But there is no beat. There's 3 receivers on the field. There's no beating out anybody. Like they're on the field together.
You know what I'm
right?
saying. Verbiage could be better, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. I hear you. But let's move on. Let's move on because I want to get to some Chargers talk after we go through this mock before we get into Reuter's mock. So Odunze to Tennessee. We got a trade right here. Here goes the trade. The Vikings move up with Atlanta. They select J.J. McCarthy. This is the pick that a lot of people are hoping for, expecting. Again, we will talk about this pick and this player and some potential things that JRich has seen and heard and sort of convinced me on a little bit about McCarthy and the Vikings. So let's just scroll down and a little bit more. Brock Bowers to the Jets, Jay. Got Brock Bowers to the Jets. Okay, we've seen that happen quite a bit. Yeah, I think they're going offensive line.
I don't think this is going to happen, for the record. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either. I did a mock draft with Pat Mayo and Thor Nystrom yesterday. I think it's coming out today. And I had them taking an offensive tackle. I had them taking it off to Talisi Fuaga out of Oregon State to protect Aaron Rodgers and his limp leg that he has. I don't know if you saw that video of that atrophied post-Achilles surgery leg, but it is small. It is like the little hand on the movie, what's that movie? Whipping the mashed potatoes, Scream, whatever it is. All right, let's move down the board. You got the Philadelphia Eagles jumping up to take a cornerback. And you haven't seen this mock, have you? You have not seen this.
I have not seen beyond like the first 25 picks, no. So okay. It's still very new to me.
Raiders don't
this
take
bet
a quarterback.
Right here, Ray?
Here we go.
Saints O-line, man. Bet that
Saints
shit.
O-line. Yeah, Saints going O-line. They lost Ryan Ramczyk. They've gotta go O-line. Indianapolis takes Brian Thomas Jr., big wide receiver to pair with Anthony Richardson. I like it.
I hate it, Ray. Not because I hate the player or the pick, but Brian Thomas is one of the most difficult players to place in the mock drafts. Like, is he going top 20? Is he going 25? Yes. Like, he's going
top 20.
Widest range of out. You think so, eh?
Yeah. I think he's going top 20. He's going top 20. I think it's a good fit for JRich. What does it mean for BTJ? I think it's good for Anthony Richardson. It's good for Jonathan Taylor.
Alec Pierce was on the field, I believe, like 92% of snaps last year and never got targeted. Put BTJ in that role and he would thrive.
I'm with you. Steelers go O-line. You got Quinyon, Byron Murphy, Verse. We're just looking for fantasy relevant guys. Here we go. Bo Nix in the trade down with Philadelphia. If you're going to take Bo Nix in the first, it feels a lot better to take him at 22 opposed to 12. Trade down, acquire some capital, take the guy. Scott and I talked about this last night. Do we really believe that the Denver Broncos are going to roll into the season with Jarrett Stidham and Ben DiNucci? That's all they have. So they're going to have to do something. Bo Nix at 22 to Denver. We'll
Still
talk
don't
about,
love it, man.
I don't love it either, but it's a lot better than spending the 12th overall pick on him. Cowboys trade down with Kansas City. They move up, and the Chiefs take Adonai Mitchell out of Texas. Interesting right there. Graham Barton to go protect Jordan Love. You've got Xavier Worthy to the Buffalo Bills. You've got the Washington Commanders trading back up into the first round to protect Jaden Daniels by selecting Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. I like that. Adam Peters, very familiar with Trent Williams, tackle out of Oklahoma when he was coming out. Get another Oklahoma tackle. Maybe you've got you a bookend down the line. Niners go for pass defense help, and then the Cowboys solidify their front with Jordan Morgan. Let's go through the second round of Reid's mock and just look at some players and fits. You got Keon Coleman to the Patriots, JRich. We've got Ladd McConkey, 37 overall, to the Los Angeles Chargers. Xavier Legette going 39th to the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers go Legette. And who do they take? Jackson Powers Johnson. So this is just good for Bryce Young. We go down the board in the second. Michael Penix to the Las Vegas Raiders at 44. So the Raiders get their quarterback of the future potentially in Penix. Troy Franklin goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jalen Polk, who's been getting a lot of steam over the past week, going 49th to the Cincinnati Bengals. Roman Wilson gets buried in Pittsburgh in the second round. That's unfortunate for my Roman Wilson love. Dallas Cowboys, of course, they'd select Jonathan Brooks, Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia, going to help out Baker Mayfield. And we get Ricky Pearsall teaming up with Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit. Jay seems to love that.
That's nasty, man.
Malachi Corley goes to the Ravens. Just feels like a freaking Ravens.
Zay Jones or Zay Flowers Insurance, right?
Flowers and Corley. Yeah, it seems like that. And we'll just finish up with round 3. And we'll quickly go through round 3 and see if there are any interesting names that stick out. The Chargers just loading up. Offensive tackle in the first round, Ladd McConkey in the second round, Trey Benson here in the third round as the second running back off of the board to the Chargers. Got Cooper Beebe. I love this guard out of Kansas State going to Detroit to just help out their offensive line even more. The Bears go Jalen McMillan, wide receiver out of Washington. Tez Walker going to Atlanta. Ben Sinnott, Kansas State tight end, going to the Cincinnati Bengals. Spencer Rattler to the Los Angeles Rams. JT Sanders to the Seattle Seahawks. We also have in the third round, Jalen Wright, running back out of Tennessee, going to Green Bay. And
Lightning to Josh Jacobs' Thunder.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs' Thunder. And what else do we have? Marshawn Lloyd rounding out round 3 to the Washington Commanders. Jay, I saw some emotion being elicited as we were going through some of these names. Ricky Pearsall to Detroit, one of the ones that seemed to get the juices going.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about some of these landing spots and picks, man?
I mean, so the ones that stuck out to me are Keon Coleman, right? You have to kind of pay attention because on the Patriots, he should at some point have an opportunity to be their top receiver. I love Ladd McConkey, love him to the Chargers. The issue will be volume, of course, but beyond that, there's plenty of opportunity, quarterback play, etc. And then Ricky Pearsall is more of a team fit than a fantasy fit because I think we know who's getting the ball in Detroit, but I love Pearsall being able to be a versatile threat in that offense. You know, when you have a Leggett, he kind of has to stay outside, but I think with Pearsall and Amon-Ra, you could do a lot of different things, move them around a lot. I really like the fit of Pearsall and what Ben Johnson would do with him in Detroit.
All right, Jay, we saw the Los Angeles Chargers in this mock. They took Joe Alt in the first round. They got a wide receiver in Ladd McConkey at pick 37, and they followed that up by taking Trey Benson in the third round. And what the Chargers have done so far this offseason definitely makes you believe, if you trust and you follow what the team is telling you, that they want to win a different style of ball. And when we were talking about we had our little pre-show meeting last night, we were talking about this, and you were referencing the journalistic outlet of CTESPN, old Antonio Brown's CTESPN network, and you said, Ray, I'm not sure that Justin Herbert is going to remain on the Chargers through the draft weekend, and I thought you were absolutely crazy. I said, you're insane. There's not a chance in hell that the LA Chargers would even consider trading Justin Herbert. Why would they do that? But Jay, you had an interesting theory that I want to discuss right now, and Scott also was kind of alluding to some things last night on the show, but just walk us through this Herbert trade from the Chargers and how he ends up on the Vikings. Just walk us through this, because I really thought you were out of your damn mind when you brought this up, but as you started to talk through it, I'm like, I was vibing with you a little bit, man. Talk about it.
Yeah, so of course, this is all speculation, right? And the big thing here is that it was actually AB who broke Diggs being traded. Now, I think that's a little different because Diggs is a receiver. Him and AB are probably very close. So there's that whole aspect of it. He knew that Diggs was going to Houston, I think it was 10 days or a week before that. But either way, so a tweet came out, and CTESPN tweets that there was potentially a trade of Justin Herbert to the Minnesota Vikings. The trade would be the 11th pick, the 23rd pick, Christian Darrisaw to solidify the left tackle spot, which, again, we know that the Chargers are looking for, and, of course, removing Herbert and the cap space going forward. But then the other factor here is that would give the Chargers 5, 11, and 23, and the other pick that was included was a conditional second from the Vikings. So at that point, Ray, if Harbaugh was feeling a little bold, feeling a little crazy, right, trying to carve his own path, he could trade up for J.J. McCarthy. He has 5. He could easily go to Arizona at 4. You know, if he goes in the top 3, then there's not much they can do there. But if he's sitting there at 4 and he wants to trade up from one spot to Arizona, it's not going to cost him a lot. And the whole reason why this is very interesting is not because I believe they should trade Herbert, but when you look at the NFL right now, you have a lot of very talented quarterbacks. You have quarterbacks like Lamar Jackson that can't even make it to the semifinals, to the championship game, because when you are paying all that money to a quarterback, it does hamstring your team to some degree. When you have to beat an Allen, a Mahomes, a Burrow every single year, and especially for the Chargers in their division, they have to beat Mahomes every single year just to have a shot to make it anywhere. And if you get through him, you still got to get to Allen. If you get through him, you still got to get to Burrow and Lamar and all these talented quarterbacks in the AFC. And so I think there is a world where not just the Chargers, but other teams realize you can win other ways. Like the 49ers are the blueprint of how you can win through the team instead of through the quarterback. And this is exactly what happened at Michigan. They won through the team. They didn't win because JJ McCarthy led them to victories countless times. He did it when he had to, but a lot of times they dominated through and through. It is different because it's college, but if you bring the same principles to the NFL, you get that expensive contract off your team when they already have cap issues. You get a rookie quarterback that you know his strengths, weaknesses, and you pound the heck out of the run. I think there is a world where maybe it could work. They'd have the 3 first-round picks. They get a quarterback that he knows how to utilize and what he's good at and isn't good at. And ultimately, you build through the team to find success in the NFL instead of trying to do it with this superstar quarterback competing with other teams with other more talented, more successful superstar quarterbacks. It's crazy, but maybe there's something to it.
So my biggest thing with this is, why would LA do this? Like my biggest pushback on this is, why, if you're LA, you have just paid and found your franchise quarterback, why would you send them away for an unproven rookie quarterback, and not even the top rookie quarterback in the class? Harbaugh can spew that shit, all that shit that he wants. Yeah. He ain't better than Caleb Williams. Like, he's just not. He's just not. He's not viewed as that type of prospect. So why would they do that? Like, my question is, and I've seen more people say, Justin, I mean, you saw it. The money started shifting last night, Jay. You sent me a tweet that J.J. McCarthy's odds had improved for going, what had happened?
It was, so the odds were LA Chargers first pick to be J.J. McCarthy. And right now, the Chargers are plus 900, right? So the only teams that have a better odds to land McCarthy are the Vikings, the Giants, the Broncos, the Patriots. That's it. That's the list. Even the Raiders have worse odds at landing J.J. McCarthy than the Chargers. So, like, yes, it's speculation. It's a random tweet. It's CT, ESPN. It's Antonio Brown. But ultimately, like, there has to be some merit to this, or the odds wouldn't shift so dramatically. Now, again, I talked about J.J. McCarthy going from 20-1 to 11-1 at 2. Significant, but not super significant. Not quite as significant as 250 to 9-1.
So how does this happen? The Chargers are on the clock at 5. They're sitting at 5, right? How does this happen? The Vikings trade up.
I think it's actually something that would happen pre-draft, right? And part of the theory behind this as well is, for people who didn't see it, Kevin O'Connell was at like a church potluck or something talking about his evaluation of the quarterback class. Yep. And so part of that analysis and theory behind the opinion was that Kevin O'Connell, who is a super smart and former quarterback, like, he knows how to evaluate the quarterback position. And there was rumors as well that he nixed any quarterbacks taken last year. Right? And so that's why they didn't go after quarterback last year. But there is thought that it's the same situation where he would rather pay the farm to go and trade for Herbert because he's not sold on the quarterbacks in this class. And that may not be true. But if there is merit to that, then yeah, you can't wait till next year because there's no quarterbacks next year. Right?
How good would that be for fantasy? Just Herbert lands in Minnesota. I mean, this is...
Well, and Herbert would want to play with Jefferson. But the issue is, as well, as there's the no trade clause. But if Herbert's getting traded to Minnesota, he has Kevin O'Connell, he has Justin Jefferson, he has Jordan Addison. He's not nixing that trade. He's still getting paid, right? Like, and you maybe want to be in LA, but you'll be all right.
And what you said was, why pay Herbert however many hundreds of millions
$50 million
to turn around and hand the ball off, and they don't even... And what the thing that you said in this whole thing that I wholeheartedly agree with is trying to build your team to beat Kansas City the way that Kansas City plays ball, or to outdo, like, you're just probably going to lose that battle. You're probably not going to outduel Patrick Mahomes. And he's doing it with dog shit outside at wide receiver. So when they finally get him some good weapons, like, good luck, you've got to try to do it a different way. And everything that the Chargers have done since Jim Harbaugh's come on board as the head coach has indicated that they are going to build this team inside out, that they're going to slow it down. They're going to try their best to not allow other teams to dictate how they play ball. And that's just what Harbaugh's done his entire career. So it's an interesting thought. It's an interesting theory. I bet you Kevin O'Connell would be he'd be just fine with Justin Herbert under contract. You bring Justin, I'm sure he would have no issues with Herbert opposed to Drake Maye or Jaden or JJ McCarthy. So we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, we're a few hours away from the NFL draft. I'm with you. This would have to be something that happens before. We'll see, man. We'll see. It was just an interesting thought, an interesting conversation. Let's see what the chat's talking about. You still need a QB to win in the NFL. JJ wants to get paid too. Nowhere is safe during draft season. All right. So we finished up Jordan Reid's mock. You want to go to a crazy one? You want to go to a
let's
wild
do it.
one and talk through
what did Reuter cook up this time?
Oh boy, old Chad Reuter. So we're going to go to NFL Network, and take a look at Chad Reuter's mock that dropped a couple of days ago, Jay. And this one has a lot more variance in it. We'll just call it that. But again, we'll skip over some of the obvious selections, as the first three are pretty standard, but now we get some crazy stuff, and we're starting to hear more about the Giants potentially maybe being in on a quarterback. And in this mock, they traded up with the Arizona Cardinals to select the aforementioned J.J. McCarthy. He goes to the New York Giants. It's just what we're going to do on Thursday, Jay, and this is not to call anybody out. We're even going to poke fun at ourselves. We're going to look at some pre-college football NFL season mock drafts, and you're going to see none of these guys in it. There's going to be no J.J. McCarthy, no Jaden Daniels. So it's just interesting. Every year we go into a process thinking that there ain't nobody. There's only one or two. And before you know it, and we finish it up, got 5-6 damn quarterbacks in round one. And J.J. McCarthy being a top 5 pick here to the New York Giants would be an interesting one. Still not a lot of weapons there. The Chargers go Marvin Harrison. The Cardinals at pick 6 take Rome Odunze, Joe Alt to the Tennessee Titans. Brock Bowers in a trade up with the Bears goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Chris Ballard has already come out and said he is not opposed to moving up or down in the draft, and it wouldn't be a draft without Chris Ballard being willing to move around. You've got the Jets not being able to select Brock Bowers. They go O-tackle, which I think they will do. And here you've got the Minnesota Vikings taking Bo Nix, along with the Raiders landing Malik Neighbors. What has stood out so far in this very non-conventional, non-consensus mock draft by our friend Chad Reuter?
I mean, Ray, just about everything. Malik Neighbors falling to 13. Bo Nix going at 11 to the Vikings. Like, I don't know, man. Like, people who aren't paying attention, Bo Nix isn't even favored right now to go in the first round. But every mock has him in the first round. And I'm not trying to say they're wrong, but it's like, he was a first rounder by all odds and consensus, and now he's not. It's Michael Penix who's the first round quarterback, and these mocks, for whatever reason, not adjusting. I like what Jordan Reid did, putting him at 22 with the trade down. Like, all that kind of makes sense. This is like, if Malik Neighbors goes at 13, I'll be honestly shocked. Like, that would be crazy. But again, with the Giants trading up because they want the quarterback, like, these things can happen. And then once again, the Arizona Cardinals pass on they passed on Neighbors, right, for Odunze, which we have heard a couple times.
They took Odunze.
We've heard that a couple times.
They took Odunze. Let's keep going down the board. Let's see what else Reuter has in this old mock. Brian Thomas to the Cincinnati Bengals. We see that. We've seen that quite a bit.
Higgins replacement.
Yep. Xavier Worthy to Kansas City. Pretty standard stuff.
Yuck.
Got Pittsburgh investing in offensive line. Dolphins and the Seahawks going O-line. Vikings get Latia Latu. Nasty.
Did you hear that he's the number one edge on Atlanta's board? So, like, when you saw Reid's mock of them trading down and taking Latu, it's because they prefer him apparently over Dallas Turner.
I don't disagree. He's an incredible talent.
Interesting.
The Cowboys take middle linebacker Junior Colson from Michigan. Just can't quit Michigan first rounders from Taco Charlton to Mozzie Smith, and now we get Junior Colson in the first round. Awful pick by Dallas. Not in the first round. I like the player, but not in the first round. And we don't get any other fantasy relevant guys outside of round one. But round two, you know, Reuter's going to give us a doozy. So let's get into it. Michael Penix Jr. kicks it off to the Raiders.
Classic. Yep.
Blake Corum. Where's it at? Blake Corum to the Los Angeles Chargers here at the top of the second round, followed by Ladd McConkey to Tennessee. We also have Jalen Polk going to the Carolina Panthers at pick 44. Tez Walker to the Saints at 45. Interesting, Tez Walker, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. You've got
Yeah.
Adnan Mitchell going to the Bears here at pick 46. How'd you feel about A. Mitchell in Chicago at 46?
I don't mind it. It's a crowded wide
Yeah.
receiver room, though, right? And can he kind of stand out, carve out his role in the offense? For people who missed it, Schefter was on Levitan's pod, and Levitan asked him, who's the guy do you think is going to go higher than people expect? And his answer was A.D. Mitchell, Ray. So, I mean, 46, it's probably a little bit low based off what Schefter's reporting, but in the Bears, it's a fine spot with Caleb, right? We expect him to support 2 to 3 wide receivers, and I think Mitchell would get ample opportunity in his first season. The question is can he take away targets potentially from a Cole Kmet? And I think they also have Gerald Everett as well there.
Yeah, they got Everett as well.
Because obviously he's not taking any targets from DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. So it'd be a tough first year from a target perspective, but I think he could flash for sure in the end zone, being one of the biggest targets on the offense.
JT Sanders to Miami, and the Dallas Cowboys taking Jonathan Brooks.
Ray, that's got to make you sick, man. That's just every mock. It's the same shit. Brooks to the Cowboys.
I'm fine with Brooks in the second to Dallas. Not in the first round. I'm fine with him in the second. Roman Wilson to the Buffalo Bills. Jalen Wright to Baltimore.
Phenomenal fit.
Ricky Pearsall to San Francisco. What a pocket of picks. Ooh. What a pocket of picks.
Ooh.
Talk about this pocket of picks right here, Jay. Talk about this pocket of picks.
Roman Wilson in Buffalo is very interesting. For people who don't know, Josh Allen needs a slot receiver really badly. He still doesn't really have one. Wilson, of course, can play outside, and I think he'd operate in kind of both areas, but he would be a very intriguing pick. He's a guy who could potentially slot in and be that number one target sooner rather than later for this offense with Diggs departing. Again, not as polished as Diggs, but a very talented wide receiver that can play inside and out. You look at Jalen Wright. Now, Ray, J.K. Dobbins signing with the Chargers, so another Ravens running back going to the Chargers. Jalen Wright could come in. We've seen this a couple times, but I think, with Keaton Mitchell coming back, obviously not this year, but next year, little redundant to have both those guys on the team, and then Pearsall in San Francisco, just get Ayuk out of there and let Pearsall cook, baby.
I'm looking at the comments. I think the Cowboys would prefer Trey Benson. I'm good with either or. Give me all the Ricky. That would be a nasty fit. Pearsall in San Francisco, my God. I think Roman Wilson in Buffalo, sign me up for that one. Patrick said I would hate if the Saints take Tez Walker over A.D. Mitchell. Why are they screwing the Cowboys like this? And L. Wood said,
people hate the
AFC
Cowboys.
South. Would you,
People hate the Cowboys.
I
Jonathan
think he's
Brooks.
talking about that damn first round pick. I think he's talking about that first
yeah.
rounder, Jay. I think he's talking about the first rounder. Let's go round 3. Let's finish up with round 3, and then we'll go around the league news and notes. Panthers, Ben Sinnott, everybody's favorite fast rising tight end at the top of the third. Xavier Legette goes in the third to the Washington Commanders. So that's the lowest we've seen Legette in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Franklin to the Giants.
Yuck. Yuck. That's not good. They don't even need him. They got hired
Trey
already.
Benson to the Cardinals. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, they need a running back.
Well, they don't need a running back, but he's a nice backup, complement, long-term solution.
Big James Conner guy, right?
Yeah. I like James Conner, man. Redraft, hell yeah, give me all the Conner. Malachi Corley to the Atlanta Falcons. Spencer Rattler to the Broncos. Now, in this, who did they take?
They took Knicks, didn't they?
Did they take Knicks in
No,
this
they
mock?
didn't. No, they didn't take Knicks. The Vikings took Knicks. So
Okay.
this would be their QB1.
This would be their
QB1.
Spencer Rattler and Sean Payton. Talk about made for TV, baby. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's freaking go. Cade Stover to the Commanders. This is tight end from Ohio State. We've got Johnny Wilson to the Colts. Didn't they take Brian Thomas Jr. in this mock?
I believe so, yeah.
Another
but Reuter's, I don't know why Reuter has Wilson in the third. Like he's the only guy I've seen with Wilson that high. But maybe he'll go that high.
No, man, I've seen Johnny Wilson day 2 in quite a few mocks. Quite a few.
Oh.
We've got
Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman to the Steelers. Theo Johnson to the Texans. Marshawn Lloyd to Tampa Bay. Will Shipley to Kansas City.
Ooh, Ray. Ooh, White Lightning, baby. Sign me up.
Talk about these 2 running backs. People like Marshawn Lloyd, and I think more people have come around to Will Shipley. So these 2 running backs, we had, I think, 3 running backs here in the third round. I believe Trey Benson, Will Shipley, and Marshawn Lloyd all here in the third round.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting because you look at Tampa and you say, well, they haven't had a lot of success running the ball, but Rachaad White's still pretty good, and I think we all would agree that. But if they could find a guy to kind of work between the tackles and they improve that offensive line a little bit as they took another guard in the 3rd round, like I think it could definitely work to have a running back tandem like Lloyd and the other guy. But it's just the bigger thing for me, Ray, is like Will Shipley in Kansas City. Like if you give me that, it's going to be very difficult for me not to take him in like the 3rd round of rookie drafts because I'm going to want shares of Shipley just in case he works out.
He wouldn't be there for you.
He's going to go higher?
Yeah. Yeah. He
could, man.
Here's the projection. It is not to take over the job from Isaiah Pacheco. No. There are very few players in the NFL who lay it on the line like Isaiah Pacheco. His role is solidified. His role would be to come in and play that Jerick McKinnon plus role, to be that 4-minute down back, to be that. Will Shipley's the only running back in this class, Jay, who 20% of the time he lined up in the slot. He is actually a running back who can be deployed as a pass-catching weapon. So in an offense that Andy Reid deploys the running back from historically throughout his career in advantageous ways in the receiving game, I would love the fit of Shipley in Kansas City, but I wouldn't propel him to be like he's a 1st-round pick. I'm not going to go out over my skis there. He's still, in my opinion, I think he'd be somewhere in the middle of the 2nd round, back of the 2nd, mid-2nd. But that'd be a pretty nice spot for Will Shipley. I like it a little better than Lloyd in Tampa Bay, but I do like Marshawn Lloyd in Tampa Bay as well. This would be a good fit for a lot of these running backs, and as well as Trey Benson in Arizona, who would be RB1 for you. Brooks in Dallas. Corum is the first running back off the board in LA. Shipley to Kansas City. Blake Corum? With Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, you're still going Blake Corum?
That's where it becomes tough, right? It's like, yes, Corum knows Harbaugh, but is it going to be like the old Ravens scheme that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards know very, very well, or will be more the Michigan scheme that Corum knows very, very well? So I think I think Corum's still the best running back of the 3. Like Dobbins, we don't know what he's going to be. Of course, if he was fully healthy, yes. and we knew that he could be 100%, what we've seen even last season, like we would take that over Corum probably. But Corum is a very talented running back, and he's definitely better than Gus Edwards. So I think it's just, can he take Gus's role at the goal line, at which point he would probably be deserving of RB1, even if he split carries with Dobbins, who, to be fair to Dobbins, could start the season a little slow coming off injury yet again.
Another injury for J.K. Dobbins, Achilles, ACL, MCL, all the stuff in his knees. But the reality is if he's on the 53, they're going to turn around and give him the ball, just like they're going to give Gus Edwards the ball. Blake Corum is not going to be a 300-touch type running back out the gate. So even though he's the first running back off the board in this mock, I still would agree with you that it would be Jonathan Brooks probably is my RB1 for me, would probably be Jonathan Brooks. I'd have Shipley down where I've got him ranked pre-draft like RB5, but I love the landing spot for him. And I think one of the things that we all got to keep in mind when we're looking at these mock drafts, especially as we get closer and as we approach this thing that we'll do again next year for 2025, is like nobody really knows what the hell is going to happen. Nobody. We have no clue. Everybody's just taking their best educated guesses, and majority of these things are dead ass wrong. Come Thursday, we're going to be like, man, how awful were those mocks where we had 11 quarterbacks going in round 1 and only 2 of them go. I mean, I'm being sarcastic here, but you get the point. These are just opinions, and it's hard to move these players around. It's an impossible task to do. So it's just interesting to see these spots. And the reason why we do this is just when the unexpected happens, at least we hope it wouldn't be your first time seeing something like this. When a player falls later or gets drafted higher or goes to a spot that didn't look like they needed a wide receiver or a running back, or didn't look like they needed a quarterback. And why would they do this? At least you had some exposure just kind of talking through how we would or would not value said player in that situation. And I think that's the beauty of this, is seeing different opinions and reading different little excerpts from other analysts about these guys and how other teams or other GMs or coaches or situations might be feeling about these players. And that's why we do it, Jay. That's why, not because Chad Reuter's right or Jordan Reid is right, because the reality is they're going to be so wrong. It's insane. They're trying to predict 7 rounds of a draft. Like, come on, man. It's impossible to do.
Yeah, it's one of those tasks that seems redundant at this point with how difficult it is. But ultimately for us, and the reason why we love doing these shows is, one, because the draft challenge is coming up. So make sure you submit your entries before Wednesday at midnight Eastern time. But bigger thing for us is projecting for fantasy, right? Running the scenarios. How would we feel if this happened, if that happened? That way, when it happens, because we've run through so many scenarios, you have a very good idea of how we would feel or where we may go. And obviously, we'll recap it for you. But I think the preparation is key so you don't make rash, uninformed decisions when your draft ultimately comes on Sunday morning, because all of us in leagues are eager to start those rookie drafts as soon as the NFL draft ends.
All right, Jay, let's go to chat real quick and see what the people are talking about. And then I love the Herbert trade idea. Got me gassed now. Again, we don't know, man. We've seen wilder things happen, Jay. Literally, we're on the stream 2 years ago. Who would have thought A.J. Brown was going to Philadelphia, right? Yep. Everybody going into that draft. And if you think we're bullshitting, go pull up tweets. Oh, they're taking Sam Howell at 22. They're going to take Treylon Burks. And we're on the clock, and A.J. Brown gets moved. You're seeing players move around, trades happen. Wild things can go down on the draft, man. We don't know what's going down behind the scenes. I still think Carolina trades 201 for T. Higgins. Would you do that, Jay? How you feeling about that?
Would I do it? If I'm Carolina, maybe, right? I think you should consider it. But there's definitely a heavy lean that Higgins is still on Cincinnati come week 1. But we'll see if anything changes. But for now, I think he's like minus 300 to start the season on the Bengals. So there's not a ton of steam, but potentially, yeah. If it was me, I would trade for Ayuk before Higgins. And so if cost is relatively the same, which I don't know if it is or not, maybe GMs prefer Ayuk to Higgins. But I would much rather prefer to pay for Ayuk and T. Higgins personally.
Monkey Pock says the crazy free agent market has set the stage for a wild draft. And I just thinking about what we're going to see on Thursday, Jay, I think day 2 and day 3 are going to be just as exciting as day 1. Because it's so deep and robust at these necessary positions in the NFL today. The game is changing, Jay. You can't hit anybody. You can't fucking tackle them from behind. You can't hit them below the waist. You can't hit them above the neck. You got a very limited strike zone in today's NFL, which because what? They want to score points. That's what people want to see. That's what sells tickets. People want to see offense, points, touchdowns, gritties, dances, all of that stuff. Man, you know how many little kids I see walking around? I live in the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, man. It's a lot of lifted trucks and country shit going on out where I live, and all you see is little kids in Justin Jefferson jerseys on the baseball field, gritty and doing stuff. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is what the league wants to do. Like, these teams, man, the more that we talk about this and we watch this and you just see Josh Allen, and we saw the report that Josh Allen, the draft last year, text 2 words to Billy Bean or whatever, Bobby Bean. What's his name? What's the GM's name?
Brandon
Kincaid.
Bean, I believe.
Brandon Bean, yeah. Dalton Kincaid. They trade away get rid of Gabe Davis, move Stephon Diggs, and now they're talking about wide receiver isn't even in the cards for Buffalo in round 1, and I don't think they go there. They've got holes all over the place. They don't need to take a wide receiver round 1. So what does that mean for the existing players we're all excited about the rookies, and rightfully so. We're excited about the rookies, and rightfully so. But you know who's going to be on the field with Josh Allen come week 1? Fucking Curtis Samuel.
Khalil Shakir, baby.
Shakir, and some other random player, right? Some other random rookie, Jamari Thrash, that they drafted in the 3rd round. And it's going to be James Cook and Dalton Kincaid show. I mean, we do this every year, and we try to temper the enthusiasm. Not rain on the parade, not piss on it, not put water on it, but just temper it. Because the reality is, Jay, I like Roman Wilson. I like Ricky Pearsall. I like Malik Neighbors. I like Rome Odunze. I like Brian Thomas Jr. I like Ladd McConkey. I like Marv. That's 7 right there. You think all 7 of those guys are the top 15 wide receivers, top 20, top 24? Hey. So I'm asking you, how are you going about parsing between which ones you want and which ones you don't want. I like Ladd McConkey, but if he lands in Tennessee, Jay, what do I do with that? What do I do with that Ladd McConkey in the second, man? And I don't want to be dismissive to the Capitol, but looking at some of these situations, like some of these guys are just going to land in spots where they're kind of buried, dog.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on it, right? People need to understand that, well, I'm sure a lot of you do understand, especially if you watch us every single week, but we live in a very reactionary market, more reactionary than we've seen in the past. So when you're targeting players in your rookie drafts, part of the evaluation process is early opportunity, whether you like it or not, because if these players don't get opportunity early and they're not, Jackson Smith and Jigba level prospects that people love, their value is going to fall very, very quickly, right? If they're not starting, if they're not playing, like the reason why the Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison's were so highly valued all throughout the season was because they produced from week 1 to week 18. And in the case of, especially Flowers and Addison, they had, Justin Jefferson got hurt, opening the door for even more targets for Addison. And then Zay Flowers, every receiver ahead of him was cooked. So it didn't really matter for him. He was the best receiver on the team. So if these players aren't going to have early opportunity, you talked about Ladd McConkey in Tennessee, buried behind Hopkins, buried behind Calvin Ridley. We don't know if Will Levis is good, and we don't know what Callahan's going to do. All those factors, not good, right? Like it's impossible to project. It's risky. You want to take that risk, by all means do it, but you have to understand the risk you're taking. And for me, I always lean on projected volume. If I can't project, 50, 60 targets for a player, it's difficult for me to take them when there is a player who be projected to be in a more significant role in an offense. So that's usually what I look at when looking at my rookie picks and kind of how I will make my selections and rank my players. But ultimately, you got to look at OC, play calling, how they deploy their players, and can this player actually see opportunity? Because if they can't have that, they're not going to retain any value in fantasy football.
Yeah, I mean, it's Garrison said it right here. He said after the top 10 or 11 picks in a super flex, people should be trading out still. This is like, he's not wrong. Like, he ain't wrong. Technically, like, you probably should. You look at the historical hit rates, rate on those picks after the first sort of pocket, and it just goes down. Now, I'll just say this. There's context that should be applied to all of that. And this is why the game of football is such a beautiful thing, because it's not played that way. And situations and landing spots and schemes and personnel packages and situations matter. And there are some that are worth holding on to and betting on. The Puka Nacua situations, the Amon-Ra. And I know it's easy to play revisionist history today and say, oh yeah, that's the one you should have held on to. But there are tools and resources to help you identify some better bets to make, or at least some better places to hold on to that money or bank it long term. I think we're getting a little bit better at identifying some of those spots, some of those opportunities, some of those situations. But by and large, yeah, man, if you're on the clock or you feel uneasy about the A.D. Mitchell who went in the second round versus the Ladd who went in the second versus the Troy Franklin that went in the third, if you can pivot out of one of those late picks and just re-roll for 2025, Jay, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. And maybe instead of feeling pressured to pick between Trey Benson and Jonathan Brooks, Blake Corum and Marshawn Lloyd, Will Shipley and Jalen Wright, maybe you put yourself out of that range and you just take a shot on Audric Estime in the third, and you trade the rights to that pick for a future first later down the line, right? Don't even burden yourself with fucking it up. Just saying, I'll just punt it until later and give me a shot on Braylon Allen, on Frank Gore Jr., on just a body that majority of these guys are going to be just innings eaters, man. They're just going to be backs that they can just handle the rock. But I'm not viewing these running backs as true elite difference makers in the light that we viewed a Breece Hall, a Christian McCaffrey, et cetera, you know?
Yeah, the second round running back is for everything in this draft. That will be probably one of the picks I try to avoid the most, because I forget what year it was, where there was tons of second round running backs and like trying to pick the right one, who it was, where it's impossible. And this class is one of those classes where there's going to be some good landing spots. There's going to be some spots you're like, oh yeah, this player can't fail here. And next thing you know, they're buried on a depth chart, and it's the guy that was going in the third round you should have taken. So diversity obviously is king. But I think, as you said, Ray, there could be some merit to trading out of the second if your plan is running back and who you want to pick is running back, because trying to pick the right guy of this class especially is going to be very, very difficult, regardless of how great you feel about a landing spot and potential opportunity.
Yeah, and again, it's okay to be excited about some of these players, but also just reel the shit back in sometimes. Like it's okay to be like, that guy might be a really good player for the San Francisco 49ers, but may not be as good for us in fantasy. And I think sometimes that hopium and that enthusiasm is hard to just kind of reel back in and manage those expectations. But we kind of want to set the table for what we're about to see on Thursday and Friday, because, Jay, we've done this long enough. You know what's going to happen. I mean, we are going to get excited about every landing spot, every damn
this year,
pick,
especially,
the capital, especially this year,
like 8 receivers in the top 50, 9 receivers in the top 50. It's going to be exciting, but that's why you have to lean on projections, scheme, data, and that's where, like, when people get pissed about me shitting on Kyle Pitts for the past 2 seasons, it's not because I dislike the player. It's because when you look at the history of Arthur Smith and how he runs his offense, he targets 2 tight ends. And you can do that with every single scheme and system in the league. And these things do repeat themselves, especially with well-established OCs. When you're trying to predict, what Shane Steichen's going to do, or trying to predict what Bobby Slow is going to do, that's difficult. But trying to predict what Andy Reid's going to do, easy. What Sean Payton's going to do, easy. Like, because these things happen over and over and over. And players are drafted, signed to fit and play a role in a system. And as long as they're healthy, they're going to do that. And it's probably going to be the same thing that happened the year before or close to it.
Moggs in the chat said, this year's second-round RBs sound like they are mainly handcuff picks. Otherwise, go wide receiver.
Yeah.
Listen, I mean, I'm not going to say it as bluntly as that, but there probably I would say that there probably are a lot of complimentary backs that, if given some leeway to have to start or operate as the team's primary running back for a couple of weeks, they're probably pretty good at it. Maybe even for a season or two. But I've learned, who taught me a valuable lesson, JRich, was Dameon Pierce. Taught me a very valuable lesson. Because his rookie year, the opportunity was right there for him. It was right. I mean, and it happened. I mean, he was phenomenal for you. If you had Dameon Pierce in 2022, I believe that was his rookie year, incredible. But the reality was, he's a 4th-round pick. Not super special, right? Pretty good athlete, but not super. You're not looking at him like he's
get replaced by Motor, though.
Speed. Right. You get what I'm saying. He's not a special athlete, but a better athlete. But it taught me a valuable lesson that if you're not that guy, if you're not Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, anytime your value hits that point where, as a running back, especially a running back that you didn't spend any capital on, and you could churn that for a first, you just take it, dude. Like, I learned that lesson, right? And we are not immune to it. And it's part of being transparent. People don't talk about the screw-ups that they've made or the things that they've had to learn. But I had to learn that. Dameon Pierce taught me that lesson, Jay, that I am no longer going to you could say the same thing about Kyron. And the reason why you're still in on Kyron now is the pathway to opportunity is very clear. Like, you see it. So you ride that, but you also recognize and know that at any given moment, they could just bring somebody else in and get you up out the paint. So, it's one of those situations where if we do hit on the Will Shipleys, the Audric Estimes, the Braylon Allens, if that pathway and that story, the opportunity starts to get murkier, starts to get a little foggier, a little cloudier, that's when you need to start. Let that courage of conviction go and just be like, what can I get to liquidate this asset and re-roll this for some future capital? You know what I'm saying? Adam says sell high always. I mean, it's interesting.
It's hard, though.
It's
hard.
This is a whole nother point. Gretchen says handcuffs versus committees. Every situation is unique, Jay.
Yeah, depends on personnel.
Every situation is unique. Where Detroit, do you consider David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs a handcuff, or is it a committee? It's a committee.
No, it's right? They're like co-ones, right? The way they operate those two, right?
It depends on the situation. What would you consider the backup running back to Derrick Henry? What's Keaton Mitchell? Handcuff or committee?
Well, honestly, Ray, he may be more of a committee because of how different the skill sets are. But in Baltimore, yeah, it's more of a handcuff because they don't throw the ball to running back.
Kyron Williams
That's more of a
is
Lamar issue.
the running back behind Kyron Williams right now. Handcuff or committee?
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist,
Handcuff.
right? So just truly, the situation will dictate whether you're handcuff or committee. But you got to pay attention to that shit, right?
Well, like you said, Ray, coaching, past history, it tells you exactly what's going to happen. You look at the Steelers, right? Everyone's in on Jalen Warren. Why? Because Arthur Smith uses 2 running backs. Sean McVay, he uses 1. Has his whole career. So it's very easy to tell what's probably going to happen, or at least add more information to that selection and where you may find some value and where you probably won't.
J. O'Connor said, at a certain point, you have to actually start players and try to win weeks. This whole obsession with constantly trading is just impossible in practice. Maybe it's just in my leagues. I don't think, but that's not really what we preach. That's not really what we're saying is to trade. If anything, we are the score points. I'm talking about, this is not, we're not saying go sell all the Justin Jefferson. We're talking about fucking Dameon Pierce here. You know, you're talking about a 3rd round rookie running back. And we preface the entire conversation by saying, if the pathway to opportunity is no longer clear. What does that mean? That means that they've brought somebody else into the situation, like a Devin Singletary. They go out and they trade for a Joe Mixon. They start to do things, decrease snap share. They pull back opportunity. When the role for opportunity and the pathway for a position that is replaceable and is as flexible as running back starts to get murky, get the hell out. Especially when you have running back assets that don't have capital, that don't have a contract. That's what we're talking about here. Not go trade Jahmyr Gibbs, not go pivot off of Bijan Robinson for picks for the hell of it. We're talking about a sinking stock that you have the opportunity to move off of. That's what we are discussing and talking about. See what else we got.
Yeah, and I look at the Bengals as one of those teams, man. I was gonna say I look at the Bengals as one of those teams, like one of those trap running back spots. They got rid of Mixon. They drafted Chase Brown last year. He looked good, but maybe if they draft Jalen Wright, he could be the RB1 for Cincinnati. So like, it's those type of situations where there can be some value, but there can also be a lot of hope and wish casting for that player. So it's one of those things that you have to balance it. Of course, in terms of the hit rates, yes, you trade at a certain point. But ultimately, if you want to make that pick, go for it. It's about understanding the risks and what you're doing when you make a selection or don't make a selection and making sure you have the most information possible. I think that's what we always try to preach. It's just being informed.
Yeah, being informed. See what else we get here before we get up out of here, Jay. And like we said, we got a full laundry list and slew of content for y'all this week. If y'all are just tapping in, we will be doing Wake Up Live Thursday and Friday, same time, 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday and Friday. And Saturday, we will be kicking off our live stream bonanza extravaganza 15 minutes prior to each showtime. And then Sunday night, Scott Connor and I on Destination Chill will be going through every single pick from a running back, wide receiver, quarterback, or tight end. Jay, I was actually thinking about this show last night in the wee hours in the morning. Like, why the hell did I agree to do this? We did a show last night where we just went through 32 teams, and the damn thing was over an hour. So this is probably going to be a long show. Next, 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours, excuse me, for 32 teams. So Sunday night's probably going to be a long one, but we're excited. I mean, it's draft week. We're finally here. Make sure you're tapped in. All the dope stuff that we're going to do. Again, we are going live on Thursday and Friday. And JRich, Hot Takes and Trending Topics is back. Now that I'm back off of vacation, I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling renewed. So I will be dropping that show every single evening. And I'm just telling y'all now, don't have headphones on because it's going to be Ray GQ, unfiltered, unscripted, talking about football-related stuff, some other sports stuff, but just me and you just having a conversation. Hot Takes and Trending Topics in the evening time is back this week. We'll be doing that. Jay, any other dope content stuff that we have that we need to tell the people about?
I would just make sure that you are signed up for the draft challenge. If you're a patron, if you're not a patron, join the Patreon, sign up for the draft challenge. Link is in the draft challenge channel for that as well. You make sure you use the promo code DDD at Underdog to get entered into our massive giveaway contest for the 2024 NFL Draft. If you don't use code DDD, you will not be entered. So make sure you use that code and make sure you sign up for the Underdog promotion, because we are giving away, 9+ jerseys, cards, Heisman memberships, and much, much more. So make sure you are signed up to that. But Ray, it's a big week for content, and I am very excited. I've already started my research for the draft challenge, and things are already changing. So it's been a lot of fun, but there's still a lot to figure out before Thursday ultimately comes about. But this is a great start, and I think it's going to be a wild week, but I'm excited for it.
We wanted to keep it cool today and temper it back since we've got a long week of content.
Thursday going to be crazy.
Thursday's going to be insane. And Garrison said it, over 350 in here. Hit that like button on the way out of the building. We appreciate y'all being here. Make sure you use that promo code Triple D if you are new to Underdog. We want to get you in the draft giveaway stream. Like, literally, you don't even have to be there to win. As long as you're in the U.S., I'll ship you out your jersey. We've got a bunch of them shit. Let me show you what we got real quick, Jay. Before hit the music, let me show the people what we got in the closet for folks, man.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here.
Hit the music.
Let's see what we got here.
We got jerseys, dog.
We got the ground shaking.
We got them, Jay.
The anticipation is killing me,
We got
Ray.
them, Jay. We got jerseys, dog. We got them. We got, what's that?
We got tons.
That's Speedy Rice right there.
Rasheed Rice, yeah.
We got Rasheed.
You got L-Jax.
We got Johnny Football.
Johnny
we got
Football,
Laporta.
yeah.
We just got shit, man. We got a bunch of
Trey
stuff.
McBride, JRich. Yeah.
Threw it all on the ground. We're giving it away. Make sure you're tapped in on Thursday, baby. We're going to have a damn good time. Jay, we ain't got no super chats. I'm back from Hawaii. It's foolishness in the fantasy space, but we love our Wake Up family. We appreciate y'all being here with us, and we'll see y'all bright and early Thursday morning. We out of this thing. Peace.